What's going on, guys? Welcome to this Python tutorial series number 8. And today we're going to be talking about conditional statements in Python. So without further ado, let's start. Now, let's proceed to the conditional statements. Now, in Python, there are three keywords that we can use whenever we deal with conditional statements. We have the if, elif, or else if, and else. Now, why do we need these conditional statements in the first place? Now, we need this in every programming languages because um, there may be times that we are given certain conditions, and from there, um, we need to be able to somehow satisfy those conditions in order for us to proceed in the instructions after the execution of those conditional statements. Okay? And it's very powerful. Um, and I'm going to let you experience some of the real problems whenever you deal with conditional statements. Okay? But now, let's talk about um, the operators that we can use for these conditional statements. We have the logical operators and comparison operators as well. Okay, so let's talk about the logical operators. We have and, we have or, and we have not. Okay, so when we talk about this, if you know logic gates or whatever, if you don't know, it's fine. Now, basically, the and, or, and not have truth tables. Okay, so basically, when you deal with and, uh, if um, if both of the conditions, okay, so this and logical operator is useful whenever you have multiple conditions. Okay, so when both of the conditions or all of the conditions actually are true, then it is true. Okay, then after that we're gonna be able to uh, do whatever the instruction that we want after that conditional statement if all of the conditions have been met. Okay, so when we talk about or, uh, it just needs one of the conditions to be met, and basically it will be true. Okay, and lastly we have not condition. So basically this is just the complement of the true. Now when true is when the condition is true, the output will be false. Okay, and basically these are the logical operators, and we are going to utilize this later on. Okay, so let's talk about the comparison operators now. So when you have comparison operators, these are also known as mathematical operators because it involves less than, greater than, equal signs. So let's talk about the equal sign first. Now, in Python, we usually use the single equal sign in storing data in a variable. So in conditional statements, we actually use um, double equal sign. Okay, so this indicates that um, if both of the conditions are equal, then they will be true. Okay, we also have the less than sign if we want to know if a number is less than the other number. So it's very handy. So you have less than and then greater than. We have that greater than there. And it's self-explanatory. If a number is greater than a number, so it's going to be true, right? So we also have the combined equal signs and less than and greater than signs. So we have the less than or equal. This basically has symbol of less than equal sign. And we also have the greater than or equal. So we have greater than equal right there. And these are very powerful whenever you have conditions given that that need to be met. Okay, so let me give an example. This is a very basic one that involves these comparison operators. So we'll go to the logical operators later on if we have now the real problems. Okay, but for now, um, let's talk about two numbers. So let's say we have 50 and b is equal to 100. Now we want to know, or we are tasked to know, whether b is greater than a or a is greater than b. Okay, so we're going to use the keywords here. So as I said, there are actually two conditions that um, we need to provide in if statements. So in conditional statements, everything starts from if. Okay, so you cannot start from elif first before you go on with the if and else. Okay, so this should comes first before anything else. All right. So now we're gonna put the keyword. Now after this, um, the syntax after the keyword is basically the conditions or a condition. Okay, so we are going to know if a is greater than b. So we're gonna just, if a is greater than b, then we put the colon, and after that we are going to provide an indentation in a new line. Okay, and inside of this, if this condition has been met, we are going to do whatever we want. Now we want to actually validate if this has been met. So we're gonna just go into print in the terminal, a is greater than b, because this condition has been met, right? So we also have the second condition here. Now we need to also know if b is greater than a. Okay, so we have the elif for this. Okay, so we have b is greater than a, and then colon, and then we're gonna print b is greater than a. Okay, now there may be sometimes that um, these numbers can be equal to each other. Therefore, we don't have conditions that will be met here. So what we do is we put else. Now, when we use the else keyword, we're actually not going to put any conditions anymore, because this is the end of the conditional statement. So when everything has not been met, okay, this else will be triggered, and the condition will be inside of this else, or actually um, the condition has been met inside of this else, and we're gonna print something. Okay, so what we're just going to print is a and b are equal, because that's the only possible uh, outcome if these conditions have not met. Okay, so yeah, let's try this and let's run it. So as you can see here, b is greater than a. So if you look at this, b is 100 and a is 50. Now if we want to have this as a is greater than a, we need to somehow satisfy this condition. Okay, so basically we're just going to change this to 150. Now a is greater than b, right? So if we run this again, let's see what happens. There you go. A is greater than b now. And if you want to if you want for these numbers to be equal, I'm just going to set this to equal, and then we have 100 and 100. So these conditions will not be met, and these will go in the else condition. I mean else conditional statement. Okay, so let's run this, and as you can see, we have a and b are equal. Okay, so what about we want to know if they are basically greater than or equal to each other. So we're gonna get rid of this, because there's gonna be just two conditions that we want to experiment with. So we need to know if a is greater than or equal to b. Okay, so let's say greater than or equal to b, and I'm just going to retain this b is greater than a. Okay, so let's run this. So as you can see, a is greater than or equal to b, because even if the A is not greater than B, but it's equal, it is equal, they're equal to each other, this condition is going to be still met. Okay, so you might wonder, what about um, we just use if statements. Okay, so as I said, everything starts from if statements, right? Now if you use these statements, it's not connected to each other because everything starts from if. So it's going to check, actually it's going to check everything in these if statements. Okay, where in elif, this is connected to the if, so that when this condition is met, it's not going to go here anymore. Okay, but if we actually use double ifs here, and we just want to know whether if we use double conditions, would it still be met by different if statements? Well, we're gonna find out. So we have this. So we have b is greater than or equal to a. So, or actually, b is less than, because that is less than or equal to a. Okay, so right there. Now, if we run this, we're actually going to have two conditions met because they are basically equal, right? So a is greater than equal or equal to b, and b is less than or equal to a. Okay, so let's run this. So as you can see, two conditions have been met. But if we just use the elif here, so as you can see, only one of the conditional statements have been met because when you use the elif, it is actually connected to the first if. Now, if this condition has been met, it's not going to go through here anymore. It's not going to check that condition anymore. Okay? All right, so let's proceed to the real problem when we want to use this end statement, okay? Or the logical operators, actually. So, um, so I'm just going to provide a problem. So let's say we are bodyguards. Okay, we are bodyguards in a party. Okay, and we actually need to identify the people that will go through the party. Now, there are actually limitations or actually criteria for a person to be in that party. So we need to know if the person is 18 years old and above, okay, and above, all right, then we are going to print, you are an adult, you can go in, okay? Oops. But now, if the person is 18, uh, is below 18 years old, we need to print, you are a minor, go home, all right? So as you can see here, there are actually 2 conditions that our employer said to us, okay, to do or to check. Okay, so whether the person is 18 years old and above. Okay, now in here we're actually going to know if a person is below 18 years old. But there's a tricky part here, and I'm going to explain that later on. But for now, let's implement this if conditions. Okay, so we have if the person is 18 years old and above. So we're gonna know. We're actually going to use the input function here first. So we have age is equal to int input. Okay, what is your age? All right. So that's gonna be our input or our user or the person that will be validated or identified. So we're gonna know if age, if their age is greater than, okay, greater than or equal, because 18 years old and above, okay, but you can actually use greater than 17, because if you do this, greater than 17 is basically starting from 18 and above. But for much more easier to understand, we're just going to use the greater than or equal to 18. Okay, now we have another condition here. So um, this is where and logical operator will come in. Okay, so we have and age is greater than um, actually greater than or 60. I mean, greater than or 18, right? But as you can see here, this is redundant. Okay, so what we're just going to do is to just leave the end for now. Okay, because we're actually going to um, uh, do some tricky parts here that I'm going to do later on. So for now, we're just going to use the actually the 18 years old and above. So we have greater than or equal to 18. All right. So we have that. Now, if that is age, if the person has an age of 18 years old and above, so we're just going to print you are an adult. You can go in. Okay. Now, we also need to know if the person is below 18 years old. Okay, so we have elif. We're going to use the elif because um, that person is just one, right? So we don't need to put. I mean, there is only age in a person, so we don't need to um, look at this if this condition has been met already. So if age is less than 18, okay, or less than or equal to 17, but I just kind of like this, okay? So we have age is less than 18, so we're just going to print you are a minor, go home, okay? So yeah, let's run this. And oh, actually, I'm just going to put else here if somehow that person uh didn't give his age, or he was hiding, or he was hiding something, right? So I'm just going to say um go home. So it means they're lying, right? So let's run this. So let's see what happens. So as you can see, I'm just going to put 50 here, which is a valid number for this condition to be met because 18 years old and above is here, right? Oops. Okay, so we have what is your age? So we have 50. So you're an adult, you can go in. All right? So what if I am a minor or the person is a minor? So we have 60 years old. So it says here, you are a minor, go home. Okay? So now we need to somehow use the and conditions here. So let's say we need to cap it. Okay? Instead of above, and we need to know if the person is 18 years old and above and below 60 years old. Okay? Because if that person is 60 years old and above, I'm just going to know if the person is 60 years old and above. This is old age. You are old. Okay? Cannot go. Okay? So we're just going to say like that. Okay? Because that's for for the health of the person who is 6 years old and above. Okay? So we're also going to we're gonna have a problem here. So just a second, we're going to just create these conditions now. So to be able to create this below 18 years old, we're actually going to put and age is less than 60 because we need to know if below 60 years old. Okay. All right. So we have that. So we have this kind of double conditions. So it's which is very nice. Now we also have an additional elif statement. So we have elif if age is equal to actually greater than or equal to 60 years old, okay, we need to print you are old, you cannot go. All right. So still we still have the age is less than 18 years old, and you are minor, go home. Okay. So else if if that person did not say his age, so that's gonna be it. So go home. Okay. So let's run this again. Let's see what happens. So if I put now 59, it's going to say you are an adult, you can go in. But if you actually, oops, you can actually if you actually say 60 years old, you are old, you cannot go. Okay, so basically it works in the 60 years old and above. So that's basically it. So it's very amazing that we have these conditional statements if we want to have these conditions that need to be met. Okay, so we have 40, you are an adult. Now, as I said, we have a problem. We're gonna have a problem here in below 18 years old. Now, what if you actually put negative numbers here? So, all we all know that there's no negative age that is existing in this world, right? So if you put negative 56, there's gonna be a problem because this condition is still met. So I said you are a minor, go home, but that's negative 56. Okay, so basically, um, there's a discrepancy here because actually, if we look at the condition, if age is less than 18, so it doesn't really care. The machine doesn't really care about the cap of 0 or 1 year old or 0 year old, right? Because it doesn't actually know the cap of that. It's going to reach for, I think, negative 32,000 plus for the numbers. So if we actually put negative 32,000 here, it's still going to be um, this condition that will be met. So we have you are minor, go home. Okay. So what we're going to do is just use these limitations, but instead of using the end, you can actually um, reduce the statements into using the comparison operator alone. Okay, so as you can see here, we have the age is less than 18, and we want to know if the age is greater than 6. Okay, so that's the minimum age that a person can go in that party. So we're actually going to know if the age is less than 18 and the age is greater than or equal to 6. Now, as I said, you can actually just use the comparison operators instead of using the logical operators. So what we're just going to do is to use mathematical manipulation here. So we can actually do it, what we're actually going to do is to have the 6 here, and then if this is greater than or equal, so this is the reverse, okay? So this should be greater than or equal the age. So we have age is greater than or equal to 6, okay? And less than 18. So we can actually have this, okay? So if you run this, let's say 6, you are a minor, but if we say 5, then that's just going to say go home because everything here have not been met, and else will be the condition that will be met. So it printed go home. Okay, so it's very handy, but it's more of harder to read. So I much prefer using the end statements. Okay, which is very nice. So you can actually use or statements, which is actually seldom to use, but I personally don't use this. Actually, I actually just use and logical operator all the time. But if you use the not, it's very handy when dealing with lists. Okay, so let's say we have a say here, or actually say, I mean numbers. So we have let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's actually occurrences of these two numbers. So we have twice. This number has appeared twice. Now we want to know. I mean, we just want to append, or we want to create a list of this that has no duplicates in it. So no dupli. Okay, so we're just going to initialize the empty list. So we're gonna just iterate through this list. So we have len numbers. Okay. Now to be able to get rid of the occurrences, we can actually create a manipulation if not. Okay, so if not is basically the complement, as I said, when the condition is true, the output will be false. So if not in, okay, so actually if not numbers I, because that's the individual numbers, in no dupli, okay, so we're actually going to know if this number or the number here, each number is not inside of this dupli. We're actually going to append that. So no dupli dot append the numbers I. So if you print the no dupli, it will actually get rid of the 5 because it is already here, so we need to know if not. Okay, so if it's not there, we're actually going to put that. Okay, oops, I forgot the numbers there. Okay, so if we run this, as you can see, we have 1 2 3 4 5 6, which is very nice to get rid of the occurrences inside a list. Okay, and basically this is pretty much it in conditional statements. There are more complex than this, so feel free to research more. And I hope you learned something from this. And thank you very much for watching, guys, and see you guys next time.